Good morning, everybody. It is day 2 of the Queer Lit Readathon, Monday, as a matter of fact. And I finished reading my first 2 books last night. I finished reading A Quick and Easy Guide to Consent and Quick and Easy Guide to Asexuality. Those are both short comic books in a educational format, and I thought they were both pretty good. The Quick and Easy Guide to Consent, I had some issues just with the way the book was laid out. Aside from the content within, the content within was all good about consent, but if it's meant to be a quick and easy guide, there was too much text crowded on the page, and also I think there was a lot of use of really specific terms that wasn't necessarily explained as much as I would expect from something that is an introduction. And also, it's weird that there's a little avatar character that comes around a little bit like Clippy, that's like the consent sheriff or whatever. And aside from the fact that I really don't like that the person depicted as the consent educator is also depicted as like a cop, it was also just really preachy a lot of the time. And I'm just like, even if I gave this to like a younger audience to like introduce them to the concept of consent, I really feel like they would feel condescended to and talked down to, which kind of defeats the purpose. But oh well, that was that. And then the Quick and Easy Guide to Asexuality was written by 2 ace comic artists, and it was done more of as a style of a conversation between the 2 of them about what asexuality is. They talked a little bit about the split attraction model, which is like the difference between sexual attraction and romantic attraction. But I thought it did a great job introducing people to concepts of aceness and asexuality. And now I'm about to start First Spring Grass Fire by Ray Spoon. This is a memoir. It's a trans book. And I've got some coffee, a little Incredible Hulk mug, boop boop, and I will speak to you very soon.
It's the best place ever. Really, really nice today. Oh, lily pads. Let's go see the lily pads. Oh, yeah. This is a really good spot to go swimming. We'll do that when it's a little bit warmer. And there's a whole bunch over there, too. I also met this really cool duck family while I was out for my walk, just swimming around and chilling. And here's a closer view of those lily pads. They are very close to blooming. Just a couple different random plants and cool things that I saw on this walk. Some peonies. And these are giant irises that are like the size of my hand. You can't really tell in the picture, but they are huge. Hello, it is Tuesday, day 3 of the Queer Lit Readathon, and I have officially finished all of the books that I set myself to read on my TBR. I finished reading First Spring Grass Fire, which is a memoir by Ray Spoon, last night. I really enjoyed it. Gave it 5 stars. It was about the author's experience growing up as a queer and trans kid in a Pentecostal church in Canada, and their experiences finding a queer family within their own nuclear natal family, but also through community and their experiences becoming a singer-songwriter in their own right. It was very short. I was able to finish reading it in a single day, and I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it if you like reading queer memoirs, for sure. And then this morning I finished my second memoir that I had set, which is Rust Belt Femme by Rachel and Jolie. This is another memoir about a queer woman who grows up in the Rust Belt in northern Ohio. Her experience of learning about her gender from the women that she is surrounded by in this working class neighborhood where she lives. The benefits of filming outside mean you get to just take a little pause when the truck rumbles by. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Rust Belt Femme is a memoir about this. It's also got a fair amount of discussion of things like the 90s punk and grunge scene, Riot Girl, and a lot of her memoir is also about unpacking some of her family trauma and her experiences with complex PTSD. As with First Spring Grass Fire, this does deal with some more heavy subject material, especially because the book begins with a description of an accident that her father was in when she was 4 years old, and he sustained a traumatic brain injury, and it's a lot of the discussion about her and her parents has to deal with how her and her mom dealt with her father's injury, and the kind of difficulty that caused for them and the rest of the family. I really enjoyed this book as well. It always feels a little bit weird to say you enjoy reading a memoir because it's just sharing someone's life story, but I liked it. I thought that it was well written, very conversational. I really liked her analysis of Femme as a way of being a gendered body in the world. And yeah, definitely would also recommend that. So I'm officially done with my TBR. I did finish the other 2 books that I had set myself if I had time. Queer Lit Beloved, which was a romance. That was really cute. I thought it was okay. It struggled from a couple of debut novel issues, but I really liked it. It was about this girl who's semi-closeted, and she gets fired from her work at this bakery in Oklahoma where she works. It's 2013, so this is before Oberfell versus Hodges, and she gets fired when her boss finds out that she's a lesbian, but at the same time takes up this business that she starts of being a bridesmaid for hire. And this book, while billed as a romance, has very little romance to it. I did think that the love interest was a little bit one-dimensional in her characterization, and she's also just not there for a lot of the book. So this is, I think, a book I would describe a little bit more as like a coming-of-age story, or like a what people would call something like women's fiction or chick lit, whatever that means, but a fiction story with a light element of romance rather than a capital R of romance. But it was very cute, it was very sweet. It's the kind of book that I'm probably going to pass on to my mom now that I'm done reading it. And I really hope that this author continues to write books, because I think that she's a good writer and I like to see her grow as a writer. And then the other book that I finished was Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe, which is a young adult historical fiction novel about this young girl named Lily, who she is a Chinese American lesbian girl growing up in San Francisco in the 1950s. And it is about her finding her first love, finding her first queer community at the titular Telegraph Club. What was interesting about this book, first of all, I loved it. This book was amazing. It made me like ugly snot cry, and I don't really remember the last time a book made me ugly cry, but this one definitely did because it was so good. But I realized that I had actually read the book or the short story that inspired this novel before, because it was in the anthology All Out, which is like stories of queer teens through the ages. It's a historical fiction anthology of short stories about queer teenagers. And apparently 4 years later, Melinda Lowe turned it into a book, and there is a companion novel that's going to be coming out later this year that she actually wrote 10 years ago, but just now is going to be published. So I am very much looking forward to that. So yeah, I've still got the rest of the week left. I'm taking a break from memoirs, and I'm reading a nice little queer romance novel, The Hellions, Waltz by Olivia Waite. I didn't know anything about this except that it is the 3rd book in her Feminine Pursuits series, which I've really enjoyed. So I'm going to read it and I'll let you know what I think. Hello friends, it is now Wednesday of the Queer Lit Readathon, and I have just finished reading my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th book. They've all been pretty short, but it's kind of impressive that I managed to get up to 7. I finished reading my 7th book this morning, which is The Hellions, Waltz by Olivia Waite. This is the 3rd book in her Feminine Pursuits series, and it is a historical sapphic romance about these 2 women, Sophie and Maddie. Sophie is a pianist and a piano tuner who has been burned by a swindler that came to her family's piano shop and, stole all of their money and humiliated her in front of the musical society in London.
And Maddie is a like weaver / con artist who is looking to do like one last job to get revenge for the death of her mother's lover, who died in some of the uprisings that had to do with the historical industrialization of weaving in England in the 19th century. This book was a fun book and a good read, but very similar to Queerly Beloved, which I talked about a little bit briefly. I don't really think that this qualifies much as a romance. For one thing, the romance between the two was pretty much insta-love, and I'm okay, you know, with characters having this immediate attraction to each other and like chemistry between each other. That's fine. That happens, you know, a lot in romance and in real life. But it seemed like the entire relationship went to a deeper and more intense place just based off of that physical attraction. And there was not really a lot of development of the two of them together as a unit. There was more character development for Sophie trying to like learn to trust again as she's falling for this person who's a con artist, and she's been hurt before by a con artist, but she likes this con artist because Maddie's con is basically to dismantle this capitalist factory overlord. So con artistry, not good if you're being selfish, better if you're destroying capitalism. I can get behind that. But there just wasn't the same like development of the relationship that I would expect from a romance, and the relationship wasn't as central to the story as I would also expect from a romance. So I would say this is really more of a historical heist novel with some light romantic elements. I'm getting really annoyed though with like some of these, and this is not the author's fault, but the way that some of these books are being marketed as romances, and specifically as rom-coms, like romantic comedies, when really they're not. It's okay to have a book that is, you know, just about life and coming of age and figuring out who you are and doing heists. It just doesn't need to be marketed as a romance if it isn't a romance. Again, I don't fault the author for this at all. Same thing with Queerly Beloved, but the romance is really secondary to whatever else is going on in the book. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this. It was pretty good. I am currently making my way through a short story collection called Love After the End, which is an Indigenous queer and two-spirit anthology edited by Joshua Whitehead. It's just some like weird science type stories, which I haven't really read a good weird science story collection in a little while. Again, that wasn't on my planned TBR for the readathon, but it came in at the library in time for me to read it for the readathon. So we'll see. I like how I said I wasn't going to read a ton of books this time around, and here I am. I've read 7 books in 4 days. Yeah, even though they've been short, it's been fun. So I'll check back in a little bit. Then I got COVID. On the upside, I did get some really cool books in the mail on the same day that I got COVID. But it still sucked. Well, hello. It is Saturday, the last day of the Queer Lit Readathon. I regret to say that a couple days ago, I tested positive for COVID. I'm still not really sure where I picked it up, especially because anytime I'm going outdoors and doing anything like that, I'm wearing a mask, but these things happen. Thankfully, it's been relatively mild. I've just spent the last couple of days mostly just resting and hydrating and doing all of those good things you're supposed to do when you're sick. Masking around my family members who are not here right now. Ventilating the house. So that sucks. I would not recommend it. Yeah, keep wearing your masks, keep getting your vaccines and boosters and all of that. I'm not eligible for my second booster yet, but now I'm another 3 months out because they say that you're not supposed to get a booster until at least 90 days from your testing positive for COVID. But I had a pretty good run. It lasted 2.5 years before actually getting it. So it sucks, but I'm glad that at least I did get it when I was already vaccinated and boosted, and I could, isolate safely because, yeah,
So I've been doing some reading off and on. I actually picked up an old favorite, Melissa by Gino. This book was previously published as George, but it has since been reprinted to reflect the main character's chosen name as the title. It's a middle grade book. It was the first middle grade book with a transgender protagonist that I had ever even heard of. It's really, really good. It's about this trans girl named Melissa who wants to be the role of Charlotte in her school play of Charlotte's Web. Everyone says she can't do that because it's a girl's part and they all think that she is a boy, but she knows the truth and she really wants to be Charlotte. So I'm probably going to wrap up the vlog here just because it's kind of gross, just like filming, feeling sick. But this was a really nice readathon. Thanks again to Rogan, Kathy, and Beck for hosting it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.